This video is for the coin bowl tutorial. I've got a piece of yew here, measuring out just over 6 or just under 6¼ inches wide, and at its widest point on the thickness 2¼ inches. We've got a little bit of puckiness in here, so we're going to turn this down to around about anywhere between 4 and 4½ inches to give us a size for our bowl. This is going to be our bottom part, give it a nice shape. Hopefully with the yew we're going to get some nice colouring out of it and some nice features out of it. It's just going to be finished with natural Hampshire sheen wax, so we're going to keep all the natural features. But before we start any turning, start with a nice sharp bowl gouge. So what I'm going to do, this is the 3/8 Simon Hope bowl gouge. So I'm going to get this over to the pro edge, get this sharp, and then we can start getting our shape. So the first thing we want to be doing before we start any cutting, making sure our gouges are nice and sharp. Sharp gouge, nice cut. So now we've got our nice sharp gouge. We'll start turning. I'm going to turn this down till we get rid of all this, hopefully end up with about 4–4½ inches. The way I'm holding this piece into my chuck is I'm using a 55mm Forstner bit, which gives me a good fixing. So a Forstner bit like this I use on the pedestal drill to give me my fixing. That allows me to clamp it onto the jaws. I'm using the Record Power SC4 chuck, so that gives me a nice secure fixing. You can use a faceplate or you can use a worm screw, whatever you want to use. Obviously most people have their own preference, but I always prefer this way. So let's get this turned down and we'll get rid of all this down to our desired size. So we're going to find a speed that we're happy with, so the lathe's not jumping about but we're comfortable with, and then we're just going to gently present our gouge to clean up our bowl or our blank, so we actually get rid of all the bits we don't want. Alright, so we'll just give that a see what that's like, because like I said, we've got that bit of mess in there. So we've got rid of most of that now. So let's just give that a rough measure, see what we've got. So we're down to 5½ inches, so we can afford to take a bit more off of that. Making sure our tool rest is pretty close. We'll try and get the minimum amount of gap as you can get there. And when you present your tool, so it gives less chance to give you a bit of bounce. So when you present your tool, obviously bring it in to ride the bevel on and then pass it through. Don't need no major pressure, let the cutting tool do the cutting. If your tools are nice and sharp, then you shouldn't need to put a lot of pressure on them. So we'll just double check our size. So that's 5 inches. Actually, I think I might keep it at that size actually, because we've got rid of that nastiness in there. Actually, let's take a bit more off. It's a little bit big for a coin bowl. So now I can speed my lathe up a little bit because it's a little bit better balanced. So that now is 4½ inches, so that'll do. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start shaping our bottom to get some sort of shape on our bowl. So I'm going to start from the bottom edge and just gradually bring it around. Going to be a bit jimpy to start with because we've got a few bits that are not quite perfectly round. So we're just going to go for a traditional curve on the bowl, just till we get rid of that that gappy bit. Whoops, that gappy bit. So I'm just going to do some shear cuts really, just to bring that in. Just gradually bring it around to bring our shape. So depending on what sort of shape you want really. So I'm just going to put a flat on the bottom of this. So as you can see with the U, you just get such a pretty grain with the U. So now what you can do, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark in here and I'm going to open it up so I can get my 50mm chuck in there. You could change it if you've got smaller jaws. I do have smaller jaws, but I'm going to keep these ones in and see what we get with these ones. So like I said before, the jaws I've got are 50mm. So we're going to mark this. Usually mark it so it's just over the 25, so about 27mm. That gives me a little bit of space for the jaws. So just going to mark it. Then we're going to cut out for our mortars. So for cutting that out, I'm going to be using the record power parting tool. So make the mortise about 5mm deep. And we just clean that out then with the 3/8 bowl gouge. And then what you can do, just so you got a little bit of a taper inside, because as your jaws grab they spread out, you can just use a scraper just to put a little bit of a V in there and clean the bottom of your mortise up. So just like that. So what you can do then, just to give a little bit of decorative on the bottom, just get this is a carbide pointer tool. just to put a couple of little lines in there, just to give it a little bit of a character in the bottom there, just to make it a little bit different. And then we can sand her up. So what we'll do is slow it back down. So we're now going to sand it from 120 grit. So make sure we put our extraction on. So I'm going to sand from 120 using the Simon Hope inertia sander. Right, so 240 grit. So what we're going to do now is we're going to sand and seal it. Chestnut product sand and sealer. There we go, chestnut sand and sealer. Actually, it don't make a lot of difference. So now we're going to put a bit of Yorkshire grit, original, rub it into the wood first. Start the lathe off low, about 500 RPM. Gently work in our paste. Let the you don't need no major pressure. Let the actual cut and paste do the job on your tissue, and you'll feel the abrasive paste working to take away the excess. And this should, if you do it right, it should take you up to about 1,000 grit to give you a nice smooth finish. So we're just going to turn the lathe up a little tiny bit, just so we can get the last out of that grit to give us our final smooth finish. Like I say, you don't need no major pressure. You're letting all the paste do the work, getting all the little nooks and crannies. As you can see, the dark, where it's going dark, is where the paste is collecting the bits of wood it sands off your piece. So now we've got that, speed up a little bit more, just buff it off now. What we're doing is we're just using the last of the grit up, or the abrasiveness in the paste, to get this final sheen we want, or that final sanding level we want. So what we're doing now is we're going to get another piece of tissue, just buff it off until our tissue comes clean, and we know we've got all the excess paste off, or all the excess Yorkshire grit off. So there we go, tissue's clean, so we know that's all off. So as Yorkshire grit is not a finish, it's only an abrasive paste, we need to put a final finish over that. So I'm going to use the Hampshire Sheen High Gloss Wax. So get your wax, rub your wax in. Now you need to allow this to soak in for a few minutes to let the solvents evaporate, which will give you a nice smooth high gloss finish. So what we'll do is we'll leave that a few minutes, and we'll come back and buff it off. Piece has been sat for about 10 minutes now. We're now going to give it a buff up. I'm using the same piece of tissue to start with that I put the wax on with. And what we're relying on is, you don't need major pressure again, you're relying on the friction between the tissue and the piece to generate heat to polish your wax off. If you've got cutouts like we've got in the bottom, then you need to make sure you get the wax out, because if not, what will happen is the wax will go white and won't look very nice. So you need to make sure you clean that out properly. So now we're going to get a clean piece of tissue and we're just going to gently buff this up. Again, you don't need no major pressure. You're relying on the friction between the piece and the tissue to bring up our shine. And as you can see, we're getting a nice shine on there straight away. So just gently going to buff this with the Hampshire Sheen wax, or any wax to be honest with that. If you want a more deeper glossy finish, you can apply more coats, but just make sure you leave a bit of time between coats to allow the wax to evaporate, or the solvents to evaporate, to get a perfect finish. So there we go, that's the outside all finished, nice and shiny. So we'll get rid of all the rubbish. So now we're going to flip our piece. We're going to undo it, that is. So we can't put too much pressure on there because obviously we're quite thin there, but I don't need to put loads of pressure on it. It doesn't need to be really tight because of we haven't got that much to cut out. So the first thing we're going to do is, you can see when we spin it, it's not very equal, so we want to finish off. We're going to smooth this out and finish this off so we get a nice flat surface. I'm actually going to take it down just past this hair. The reason being, I think that this bit here will fall out if we don't, so that's what I'm going to do first off. So again, making sure, safety glasses, again a 3/8 bowl gouge, and we can reface this up and get a nice finish on this. So gentle passes. If you've got a piece of wood like this is untrue, for the first couple of passes it may be a bit jumpy until you get a nice smooth surface to turn onto. So we'll just see where we are with that. So that's got rid of our manky piece. So what we'll do now is we will start hollowing out. So it's not a very big bowl, so we're going to just gently take the middle out and take it nice and steady, making sure your bowl gouge is at the correct height, so your finished cut is centre. Nice steady passes, there's no rush. Making sure when you present your tool to your piece, you're riding the bevel as you come in, and then you just gently lift the handle to give you your cut. Roll the gouge round as you're going in, so you end up with the gouge at the 2 o'clock mark when you come to your centre, so you get a nice finish. So I'm actually going to swap to the Robert Sorby bowl gouge, 3/8 bowl gouge. The reason being is because the handle's slightly shorter, and it gives me more chance to swing it round. So I just want to try and take a little bit more meat out of this side. So just going to check the depth. So we've still got a bit of meat there that we can take out. So let's just turn that so we're inside our bowl a little bit, give us a little bit more support. So when you're coming in your bowl, obviously ride the bevel and just take the gouge until you can feel the bite, and then you can start your cut. So we just check that. Don't know how thin we want to go. Alright, so I think we just take a little bit more off the wall. Don't want to go majorly thin. Thin is nice, but for this we don't really need to go thin. Like I say, you don't need to be pushing hard on your tool. Let the tool do the work. If you've got a nice sharp gouge, you shouldn't hardly need to put any pressure at all on it. So we just check that. That's fairly equal all the way through. So I'm not going to do nothing else to that. We're just going to sand that now. If you get too thin, you'll get a bit of chattering and then you'll get bounce marks in it and all sorts. So that will do for this. So what we'll do is we'll get sanded up. So again, I'm sanding from 120 to 240. I'm using the 37mm head this time so we can get inside of our bowl. So extraction helps. Alright, so that's up to 240. So we're just going to sand and seal it. So now we're going to Yorkshire grit it. Exactly the same as we did the other side, or out on the outside. So now we've sand and sealed it. No, not sand and sealed it. Now we've Yorkshire gritted it for our final wax. Again, we're going to leave this 10 minutes to dry or to soak in for the solvents to evaporate, and we should get a nice smooth shiny finish. Left it 10 minutes, just going to buff this out again using the same cloth as we put the wax on with to start with. And then we're going to speed the lathe up a little bit, get a bit of friction on it to give it a polish up. So there we go, nice little coin bowl. I really enjoyed doing this, hope it helps you guys. If there's any questions, chuck them in the comments, and I'm sure myself or someone will be able to help you. But get out in the shed, get on the lathe, have a go. You don't know until you try, and it's all about practice, practice, practice. So, hey guys, catch you on the next one. Speak to you soon. Bye for now.